So, we've talked a lot about the living soil revolution, but what's next? I mean, how do we get from just understanding the problem to actually fixing it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to get practical and look at the real actionable ways we can move forward.
Yeah, and look, the stakes, they couldn't be higher. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Everything we depend on, our food, our water, heck, even our climate stability, it all comes back to this incredibly thin living layer of soil. It's the secret foundation of our entire world. And right now, it is seriously at risk.
All right, so that begs the big question, right? If this foundation is starting to crack, what do we do about it? Well, there's no single silver bullet here. The real answer is a strategy that works on multiple levels at once, all the way from global policies right down to things you and I can do in our own backyards. Let's break it down.
Let's start at the very top with the power of policy. Because honestly, this is where the biggest levers are. The rules, the regulations, the incentives that governments put in place, these are probably the most powerful forces that decide the fate of our soils on a huge scale. You know, one of the biggest traps in policymaking is this idea of a perverse incentive. This is what happens when a policy, which was probably created with the best intentions, ends up having these disastrous side effects. It's like paving the road to soil degradation with good intentions.
And this slide, it's the perfect example. It shows you the two sides of that coin. On the one hand, you've got policies like urea subsidies in South Asia. The goal? Boost crop yields. The reality, farmers used way too much, which led to contaminated water and acidic soil. A total mess. But on the other hand, you've got policies like what the EU is doing, where they're literally paying farmers to make their soil healthier. It's a complete flip, from subsidizing a chemical to rewarding a good outcome.
And hey, this isn't just theory. We're actually seeing this kind of smart governance in action all over the world. India's soil health card scheme is a great example. It's like giving farmers a report card for their land so they know exactly what it needs. The key takeaway here is that good policies don't just dictate, they empower farmers with knowledge and reward them for taking care of the land.
So good policy is absolutely vital, right? But here's the thing. You can't just look at one farm. Individual farms don't exist in a bubble. To really make a difference, we've got to think bigger, beyond the farm gate, and start looking at whole landscapes. And the best way to do that is to think in terms of a watershed. It's the natural organizing unit for land and water. Basically, everything that happens upstream, every bit of fertilizer runoff, every pound of eroded soil, eventually makes its way downstream. So if you want to fix the problem, you have to treat the whole watershed like one big interconnected system.
And this is where nature-based solutions really start to shine. I mean, take wetlands. Think of them as the landscape's kidneys. Seriously, when harmful nitrates from farm runoff flow into a wetland, these amazing little bacteria get to work, convert it, and release it as harmless nitrogen gas back into the air. It's a completely free and incredibly effective water purification system built by nature.
Now let's scale this thinking up from the landscape to the entire globe. You see this number, 4 per 1,000. It might look tiny, but the idea behind it is massive. It's a global initiative where countries aim to increase the carbon in their topsoil by just 0.4% every single year. If we could actually do that, it would pull a huge amount of CO2 out of the atmosphere.
And look, hitting those big global goals, it all comes down to teamwork. It's about sharing what works. Techniques that were perfected by farmers in South Asia are now being used to boost soil health for farmers in Africa. This kind of knowledge sharing is absolutely critical if we want to scale up these solutions fast enough to matter. All right, this next part is maybe one of the most exciting things happening right now. It's where soil health, the climate crisis, and, well, cash all start to connect into a whole new economy. I want you to just let this sink in for a second. We always think about forests when we talk about carbon, right? But the single largest reservoir of carbon on land isn't the trees, it's the soil itself. This one fact has completely changed the game, and it puts soil right at the heart of the fight against climate change. So when we talk about storing carbon in the soil, what are we really talking about? We're talking about this, soil organic carbon, or SOC. You can just think of it as the carbon part of all the living and decaying stuff in the soil. It's become the key metric, the thing we measure, to track both soil health and how much carbon it's storing. So how does the carbon even get in there? Well, it's actually this really beautiful natural process. It starts with plants breathing in CO2. Then, when those plants drop leaves or their roots die, an army of microbes in the soil goes to work, breaking it all down. Through some pretty complex magic, they help bind that carbon to tiny clay particles, locking it away safely in the soil for years, decades, or even longer.
And now, here's where the cash comes in. We figured out how to put a price on that carbon storage. There are now carbon markets that will literally pay farmers to do things that increase their soil organic carbon. This is creating a brand new income stream for farmers, turning good land management into a profitable business. Of course, the challenge is making sure that carbon is measured correctly and that it really stays locked in the ground.
Okay, so policy is huge. Markets are a game changer. But the revolution, it really takes hold when it's driven by people, all of us. This is about taking soil stewardship out of the lab and putting it into the hands of everyone at the grassroots level. And what's so amazing is just how easy it is to get involved. You don't need a fancy lab coat or a PhD. Really simple, low-tech tools. We're talking pH strips, color charts, even just counting the number of earthworms in a shovelful of dirt can give you a surprisingly good picture of your soil's health. This puts real power into everybody's hands.
But get this, we're pairing that super simple, low-tech stuff with some seriously high-tech tools. There are now apps for your phone that use AI to analyze a photo of your soil and tell you about its health or erosion risk. It's this combination of simple and sophisticated that is supercharging citizen science like never before.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's just take a step back and weave all these different threads together. We've seen that we need action on every single level, from global policies and carbon markets all the way down to watershed planning and community science projects. Ultimately, it all leads to this one central idea: the soil, plant, animal, human continuum. It's about a deep understanding that these are not separate things. The health of our soil is directly and fundamentally linked to the health of our plants, our animals, and, of course, ourselves. You simply cannot have a healthy society on a sick planet. So what it all boils down to is this: the huge challenge of healing our planet, it really just starts from the ground up. It starts right there, in the living soil beneath our feet. And that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. What role are we going to play in all this?